Hey guys, hope you're doing well tonight and enjoying the drinks. Like Vince said, I appreciate him putting this on. There's so much value that can be had in this room. It's important that everyone buys in, makes a decision to do what they're doing. And don't look back, honestly, that's the only way forward. So, has anybody in this room read Matt Fairclough's book, Raising Private Capital? A few people? Okay, so you guys know what I'm about to touch on. For those who don't, the book articulates that there's a couple different sides to the real estate transaction, being the cash provider and the deal provider. Most of you guys sitting in this room are going to be deal providers. You're going to be looking for the cash to fuel your flips, your rentals, your new construction, what have you. And then there's also the cash providers, and their main goal is to build their wealth through passive real estate investments, secured, and they all have different appetites. So they're always hungry for different types of projects, class A to D, different locations, etc. So what Lachlan Capital's done is we've kind of placed ourselves within that realm. We help you guys as deal providers get connected to the cash you need to scale, and we help the cash providers expose deals within the Atlanta market and nationwide that fit their appetite, that they deploy their cash into and build their wealth. So a few of the types of deals that we fund, we obviously do fix and flips, rentals, new constructions, we do bridge loans, transactional loans, ground up, multifamily, commercial, pretty much any type of loan that you would need, we have a package for that's pretty competitively priced. So the obvious thing is why would you guys as an investor, why do people turn to Lachlan Capital? The best one is that they're paying too much in interest. So the second one is that they don't have an established relationship with one or multiple lenders that they need to leverage to hit their goals for volume or efficiency or what have you. And then third, they just may not have the time or the expertise in the arena to support their financial backbone. They may be great at putting houses up, finding lots, but when it comes to raising capital and syndicating, they just may not have it put together. So most of our clients have one or all of those pain points that we help solve. From what I can tell, and in my opinion, we continue to grow month to month just simply because of our expanding lender network. We've got private lenders that are lining up to look at the deals that we're sourcing to deploy their capital into, whether it's the debt side or the equity side. And past that, we're not just loan originators, so we're not going to just take your application, process it, and then spit you a term sheet, say sayonara, and take a fee. All of our sales reps, our account executives, we're all principal investors in real estate ourselves, so there's some expertise that we add across the board. You know, whether it's saving you a few $1,000s or introducing you to a resource that you didn't have, there's something that we can add value-wise to your business. So what does this all mean? Like, what are we going to do for you if you sit down with us? Like, what's tangibly going to help you? The first thing is the most obvious one. We're just going to save you money on interest or fees. I know there's probably a lot of people in here who are paying something like 12 and 3 on their interest and points. We just really want to talk to you because we'll save you a few $1,000s starting next week. So past that, once we've kind of pinned that capital program and qualified you as a borrower, we're going to assign an account executive to you. So that makes sure nothing falls through the cracks when it comes to the capital raise process, the closing process, and corresponding with all parties involved. We've got you covered with a dedicated in-house rep. So past that, if you're a developer, you've got something going on where you think it's airtight, you're proud of your project, and you're ready to get going, we'll just simply put it in front of a lot of hungry capitalists. You know, there's probably an investor within our network that wants to deploy their capital into whatever project it is that you have. Just want to touch on a few examples of some stuff that we're working on right now or have closed in the past 2 weeks. The first one was just a fix and flip in East Atlanta. This was actually a brand new investor. They got a $205,000 loan at 9.99% and 2 points. And this was their first deal that they ever entered. So that's not standard for someone who's never done a deal before. And their finances weren't anything absurd either. So we were just able to help them with a really competitively priced program to get going and scale. We also have, on a little bit of a larger scale, we're syndicating capital for a $4 million townhome project in Marietta. $3 million of this is debt and $1 million of it is private equity. So we've been engaged to help piece that together through the whole capital stack. But then past that, with this specific deal, we were actually able to introduce the landowner to the builder and put the whole team together. So it's not just the good rates we can provide. We can kind of we can take your vision and bring everyone to the table to make it happen. So then on the largest scale that we have going on right now, we've got an engagement with a group that's doing a $37 million, 150 unit Class A condo building next to Atlantic Station. So that's a really exciting raise that we're going to be working on over the next 6 months and kind of what we intend to do on the largest scale possible. That's really all I have. I hope you guys have a good rundown of the company, how we may be able to add value. I promise you we want to help, and there's probably some way that we can. So what I would invite everyone to do is just give it a shot and talk to us about your next investment, because there's a really good chance that whether it's interest or fees or any other resource that you don't have, we're going to be able to have an immediate value add to your business. So we've got some flyers up here that I'll set on this table. There may be too packed of a house I may have not printed enough, which is not a bad thing at all. So again, I want to appreciate Vince for putting all this together and having me. I'll leave these up here, and I really hope I get to talk with you guys soon about some of your deals.
Going to meetup groups probably 2014, I think it was, end of 2014. So I'll give you a little background. So I started going to meetup groups 2014, 2015. At that time, I kind of got into podcasts, listened to Bigger Pockets podcast, and that kind of things. Way back in 2007, though, I thought that I was going to do my first live and flip, and I bought a house in 2007, and we all know how that turned out. Stayed in that one for a lot longer than I expected, but I did finally sell it for almost what I paid for it in 2015, minus $4,000. Anyways, I'll give you a background on my story. So I'm a corporate America refugee. I've been full-time for about 18 months now. I left corporate America in January of 2018. So it's been a fun ride. I did probably over a decade in corporate America. I'm 34 years old. Started working corporate when I was like 19. With all through college, worked full-time through college and all that stuff. So I was tired of cubicles after a while. Started kind of getting hooked on podcasts, and then started going to meetup groups. And originally I wanted to do fix and flips, but I kind of grew into wholesaling accidentally, and that's mostly what we do. I do a few flips a year, do some wholesales and stuff like that. Kind of rewind to back when I started, I was making offers back then on MLS, and I realized I was wasting my time, because that was in 2014, 2015, and the hedge funds had come in and wiped up all the foreclosures. Really a lot of competition. I'm sure some of y'all are doing that now, making offers on MLS, and you're not getting anything accepted. So I just found out about direct marketing, and in 2016, started doing direct marketing, set up a website, and I later learned that you have to figure out a way to get traffic to your website. Just having a website by itself is not enough. But started doing direct mail, and did just some very small mailers, kind of dipping my toes in the water on some absentee lists, and then I got I mailed this mailer. I called it the Little Old Ranch House in Milton list, and I was mailing to these little old ranch houses left in Milton that were surrounded by $1 million homes, and never got a lead on that until over a year later, and that deal turned into just a massive deal. It's still not done yet, but that shows that consistency is key with direct mail. If you're going to do that, you just have to keep doing it over time, and when they're ready, they will call you. So was doing direct mail, and I started in about April, May of 2016. I was still working full-time, and another decision that I made here, which I attribute to some of my success in getting started, was I was working a job for a company up in Roswell, and it was a super duper stressful job. The guy that ran our company, for lack of a better word, was a total asshole. And it was the most stressful job I've ever had. It paid me awesome. But one day I decided, I was like, look, no matter like what this pay is worth, I can't deal with this emotional roller coaster every day. So I left that company and I found another job at a company that was a lot less stressful. And then I was able to then start my real estate business on the side. And I started doing marketing, and I was taking calls at work, and I was hopping out to the break room and talking to sellers, and trying to go do appointments when I was on my lunch meeting, or see if I could find somebody else to go on an appointment for me, or go check out a house, or doing everything I could to try to hustle deals. And so I didn't lock up my first deal until about October of 2016. And at that point, the very next year, in 2017, I was still working full time, did 7 deals that year. So that goes to show you, like, if you do that first one is your hardest one, and then they're all easier from that point on. And you learn so much. I learned so much on that very first deal. I'll share a little bit of a story about it. This guy called me back. I guess him and his mom had a bunch of rental properties up in the Canton area. I live up in Canton, which is why I don't come to this meeting that often, because it's a haul to come down here, and I hate coming down to the city.
Shame.
Right. I like OTP on the sticks.
Talk about the scorpion.
Right. Yeah, there's scorpions out there. I guess he's afraid of them or something. Anyways, that particular deal, we got it in direct mail as an absentee list. There's only about 300 people. I don't recommend mailing a list that small because it's just not big enough to mail to. But it worked. Got a deal out of it. And this guy, I made every mistake in the book. He told me that the tenant knew that he was selling the house, and I never got that in writing. And then I showed up to the house the day I closed on it. I tried to wholesale it. I didn't really have a buyer's list at that point. Didn't get any buyers. So I just took my cash and I closed on it. It was like a $30,000 house. If anybody knows up in Canton, it's like one of those little old mill houses that now they're probably worth $100,000, but back then I paid $30,000 for it. And then I basically wholesaled that one. We put it on the market that day. I inherited this tenant that I didn't think I was going to inherit, so then I had to serve him 60 days notice that he had to be out. I had to just think on my feet constantly, like, oh crap, what do I do now? And then I found out that the landlord was stealing power from the power company. When I went to turn the power on, they were like, the power's been off since July. I was like, no, it's not. The air conditioner's on right now. So he had someone turn off the electricity, and he had somebody climb up the pole and turn it back on, and he was charging the tenant for electricity. That same landlord showed up the day I bought the property and collected rent from the tenant for the next 2 weeks in cash. So that was fun. But anyways, it just goes to show you that you're always going to learn on your feet. And even to this day, I'm always learning on new deals. You're always getting the curveballs thrown at you. And you have to be nimble and just roll with the punches on things and be a problem solver. So I thought that was a cool story about the particular deal. I put it on the market. We ended up getting a buyer. I ended up having to do a cash for keys with the tenant because we came up to about day 50, and he was like, oh, I still haven't found a place to live. And I'm like, dude, day 60, I'm filing for eviction. And I basically said, look, if you can be out by Friday, I'll give you, $500 cash. And Friday came around, and he had just gotten the U-Haul truck. He's like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I was like, that's not my problem. I gave you 60 days notice. You should have found something by now. There's no reason why you can't find something in 60 days. So anyways, I ended up going over there that Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m., and he had moved out in the middle of the night. I went by the house the night before at 10 o'clock. He still hadn't moved his stuff out. But I came back the next morning at 6:30, and all his stuff was out. We did a cash for keys. I inspected the house. He gave me the keys, gave me cash. It worked. So cash for keys works. But got him out, and then we closed on it that Monday. I already had a buyer that had locked us. We ended up making about $9,000 net on that deal. So for my first deal, wasn't too bad. During that same time, though, I lost some money on another deal, but I won't talk about that one. So anyways, that just goes to show there's consistency. So all through 2017, I was always doing deals on the side and just hustling stuff at work. And then finally, I probably would have quit my job a long time ago, but my wife is an extremely risk-averse person and completely opposite of me. And it took me a while to warm her up to the fact that I could do this, right? And I convinced myself I could do it. And we had some savings, and then we had, okay, we're going to get these bonuses here, and blah, blah. I'm just going to do it. And if you're going to do it, you need to take the jump. It's just like I have 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. It's just like with kids. You're never 100% ready to do it. If you wait till you're 100% ready, you're never going to do it. Same with buying investment property. Like if you're buying your first property, I mean, obviously you want to do due diligence and make sure it's a decent deal, but don't expect to have a home run right off the bat. You get more value out of learning and your education on these deals, on these first few. You need to look at them as an education and use those as a learning experience to then catapult you into the ones after that. So, I forgot where I was going with that, but anyways, just you got to take that dive, and you're going to take that jump, and you're going to see when you go to work on your own. Maybe if you're a buy and hold person, I would just wait until you get pretty good consistent cash flow. But I jumped into it doing wholesaling and flips, and it's inconsistent income. It's like this, and it's big check this month, and little check that month, and then big check that month, and then it took my wife a while to realize okay, I get it now. So if you're going to take that dive and you're going to do it, just always be pushing forward. Don't look back. Just keep pushing forward. Keep doing deals, and you need to do the things that are going to get you deals. You need to take the actions necessary to get those deals. So you need to be either doing marketing, or you need to be making offers, or you need to be networking with people, telling everyone and everybody what you do. And if you take all those steps and you do all those steps, the deal's a byproduct of that, and you'll get them and you'll do them. You just have to continue to do those things that will make that happen. So, what I wanted to talk about though is I want to talk about 3 skills to be effective in this business. I've already kind of told the story about the first deal I did, and the first thing to be effective in this business is fortitude. You definitely need to have some fortitude here because you're gonna come across all kinds of things doing deals where you're like, oh my God, like it's the end of the world. But there's always a solution to everything. You've got to learn to be a problem solver and figure things out. You should also have a really good real estate attorney. Where's Josh? He came tonight. There he is, over there. That's fine. Attorney right there. Josh Rand. If you need a good real estate attorney, Josh Rand is an awesome real estate. He's an investor too himself, so he gets it. But anyways, I still to this day sometimes have sleepless nights where a particular deal just grinds on me in my head, and I'm like, oh, and it's just negative thoughts in my head. You have to learn to combat those. But really, if you just keep doing things and you just stay consistent, it'll work out in the end, but you can't talk yourself out of things. So you gotta have fortitude. And also don't sell yourself short too. Don't let those negative thoughts basically make you be a quitter or just unload a property for super cheap just because you're scared or whatever. You just gotta push through it, still do your due diligence, make sure it's a good deal, but don't sell yourself short as well. There's a lot of deals I've done where I probably could have made a lot more money than I did, or I set my bar too low. For instance, this year I just said, on a wholesale, I want to make an average of this per deal, and I just raised my bar, and I now make that on every deal. My bar was down here before, and I was always hitting that bar, right? And then I just raised that bar up, and that's what I hit now. I just raised my goals. So don't sell yourself short on that. Another thing is adaptability. I talked about this too. You got to learn to roll with the punches. You can't expect things to go according to plan. I mean, those veterans in the room, you all realize that real estate never goes according to plan, ever. So you just got to learn to deal with that and understand that there's different solutions to every problem. Let's see here. And then do you have a plan B and a plan C? Whenever I do a deal, and maybe I could do more deals than I do. There's some wholesalers that just lock up everything and will try to wholesale everything, and then if it doesn't work, they're just going to cancel their contract with the seller. I think I've only had to back out of maybe 2 or 3 contracts in the past few years. That's it. So I always look at a deal as if I'm going to buy it, and that's always my plan B, and then I'll just wholesale it, or okay, could this be a good rental? Could this be a good flip? For instance, a few months ago, we got one that would have been a good buy and hold, but I ended up getting a seller to carry back owner financing on the deal, and this was sort of a mobile home. I call it a mobile home at heart. It was a mobile home that they built a house around, and we ended up getting owner financing from the seller, and then we sold it on a wrap to the end buyer, and they were ecstatic because they bought this house, and I talked to them the other day, and they've already almost completely remodeled this whole house in a month and a half since we closed. It's crazy. And we owner financed it to them, and they gave us a pretty good cash down payment. And their mortgage would be. And we did a pretty short-term financing on it. I mean, they're gonna have us paid off in 8 years. And they're happy, like they're gonna have this house and they got this beautiful lot. And it all worked out. And I ended up, that was just another way to look at a deal. Like, oh, what could I make on owner financing? And I reached out to a buddy of mine in Texas who's done like 400 owner financing deals. And I'm like, what does this look like to you? He's like, oh man, this is solid. You should do this, this, and this. So that's another note too. I encourage you to, and that's why I'm not going to talk very long tonight. The networking here is super important because that's how I've gotten private lenders. That's how I've gotten deals to wholesale people. I mean, there's people in this room, I've known you guys for years. We've been coming to these meetings for years. That's the value in this meeting, not the silly speaker at the front who's talking about himself. So I definitely encourage you to do that and build a network. I'm part of a national mastermind group, and I've gotten so much value out of that. I pay a lot of money every year to be a part of it, but I've built relationships and learned so much as part of this group. So if you can't join like a legit mastermind group one day, I highly encourage it. There's a lot of them out there, but then you can bounce ideas off of people, and they could lend you money or help you out with this or that. Like for instance, I'm trying to get my wife to do an info marketing course for project management, and there's a couple guys in our mastermind group that do info marketing, and I was like, hey, what do I do here? And they, boom, help me out, just like that. So, highly encourage that. The last piece, and I'm totally ADD, if I seem like I'm ADD going all over the place, I'm sorry, that's just me. And this last piece goes in with my ADD. You need to learn to delegate. That's been tough for me. There's a lot of real estate hustlers out there. You're just hustling and hustling and hustling. You don't have to do everything yourself. Delegate things out to other people. You can only do so much on your own, and there's only so many hours in the day. So if you're not delegating out to somebody, you're just going to hustle yourself to death. I know a lot of people brag about working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And if you're like young and you're maybe not married or you don't have any kids, hustle away right now. But like I have 2 little kids now. So the whole reason I went into this business is so I could spend time with my kids, so I wasn't stuck at the office all day. I wasn't commuting. My wife still works corporate. She works for Cox Communications, and she commutes from Canton to like Perimeter every single day. She likes it. I don't know why. But she's in a car for 3 hours a day, every day. Like, it's insanity. But she likes it, so she continue to do it. But I do this so I can spend time with my kids, and I take them to school every morning. I pick them up every day at 4:30, like I'm there, and I'm a part of their life, so I want to be a part of their life. So part of delegating is so you can spend more time with doing what you want to do. Are you going to give away a few bucks doing it? Absolutely, but then you can focus your time and energy on more higher dollar value tasks. You shouldn't be doing the little stuff like, I'm a huge DIYer, right? Some of you guys that know me on Facebook, I DIY projects at my own house, and I have the skills to like totally build a whole house on my own, and I could do it, but you shouldn't do that. Like if you're doing a flip, you shouldn't be doing the work. You should sub it all out. You should not pick up a hammer. You shouldn't do it because you hire a better use of your time. You should be out finding more deals. You should be out raising more capital. That's how you grow in this business, not swinging a hammer. So, and also pick the right people to be on your team. So Joel over here is my newest acquisitions manager here, just started like 2 weeks ago. So training him now so that I don't have to be on the road driving around every single day locking up deals. I'll pay him a good healthy commission on all the deals that he gets, but then I can focus on doing more marketing, raising more money. I'm not running around like a madman like we were all day today from all over the planet. I mean, when I drive a big truck, it's horrible gas mileage. Also, pick the right people with complementary skills. The reason I hired Joel is because I'm a terrible salesperson. If you look at my disc profile, I'm not a salesperson at all. So I looked for somebody who had a good salesperson profile, and Joel's got huge sales experience, and that's why I hired him. And then my leads manager that I have, that she works remote, and she takes all her calls through CallRail. She lives up in LJ. I hired her because she's great and she's organized. I'm super disorganized, so she's organized. She keeps us organized. She puts everything in the CRM. She puts all the appointments on the calendar. She reminds me, did you call this person yet? Did you do this? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm finding people that have complementary skill sets that I don't have, that are my weaknesses, and I put them in those seats. And I'm going to continue as I build this business to put more people in the seats that I'm bad at. But you just have to sort of do that one step at a time. I think that is about it. I didn't want to take up the whole night because the networking is more important than the speakers. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Tell me about just an average day in your life with business and how you handle leads that come in.
Sure. Yeah. So like every morning after I drop my kids off at school, come back to my house, I have my office at my house, and I'll sit down and I'll just kind of go through like what I need to do that day, and make a list of things I need to do. And then about 9, my leads manager starts about 9:30 in the morning. So every morning 9:30 we have a call, and we talk for probably either from 30 minutes to an hour, and we just go over all the leads that she has, what she's doing with everything, the status of this deal, the status of that deal. I've been training her how to pull comps and evaluate properties and things like that. She's getting better at it, and every day she's learning something new. So we'll go through those leads. And then at that point, the rest of the day is do I have more marketing to order? Like, do I need to? So this is something I probably shouldn't do, but this is what I did in corporate America. Like, I build all of my lists, and I have these databases that I built. I did data analytics. I'm an SQL whiz. So I do all that stuff still because I'm really good at it and I'm fast at it and I can do it quick. But hopefully one day I could delegate that piece out. So I'm making sure all my lists are scrubbed. I do have a VA that scrubs and pulls data, but I still do the ultimate final scrub on all the lists, making sure my marketing's ordered. I'm reviewing my, I do a lot of internet marketing, so I'm reviewing my internet leads. I'm giving feedback to my pay-per-click guy. Hey, this lead came in, it was a full retail lead. Like, why did this come in? So I'll send the email back. Oh, it was on this keyword. Okay, we should exclude that keyword or this keyword. And then I'm also, setting up. I'm doing closing coordination with the Josh's girls in his office are awesome, and they take a huge weight off my shoulders from doing closing coordination. They really handle anything. It's great. I can just sort of hand stuff off to them, and they've got it from there. And then at that point, I'm right now because I don't have an full-time acquisitions person. And now that he's on board, I'll throw you to the lions here in about 2 weeks when I go to the beach. But I've been going on appointments lately, running around town, driving on appointments. But typically, if I'm not on that, then I'm checking with my acquisitions manager, like, okay, what appointments do you have today? Like, what do you think the house is worth? Blah blah blah. Just kind of confirming all that stuff, and just checking in with the team to make sure that they're doing everything. And it ends up all of a sudden I turn around, it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'm going to get my kids. So it's about the average day.
2 more questions.
2 more.
You mentioned you did owner financing on that particular deal.
Yeah.
But you still had a note on it. How are you?
So we wrapped it. So we got permission from the seller. The seller financed it to us. That we told him we were going to wrap it, and we put an addendum in the note that he agrees that we're going to wrap it, and then our end buyers knew that we were wrapping it, and we put that in there. And I just have to basically provide them proof every quarter that we're making payments to the seller, but we don't owe him. I mean, our payment to him's like $300 a month, so practically nothing. So that's how we're doing it. Everything's in the note.
Somebody back there, all the way in the back.
How did you go about finding and joining your mastermind group?
It was one that starts. So the group I'm in is called Fuel. But it was a friend of mine started it up and asked me to join it, and I joined it and just kind of been in it ever since the beginning. But there's a lot of them out there. Just need to find one that is kind of in your niche that you want to do, and find one that you sort of vibe with the people in there, and you need to be with people that are better than you, right? There's a lot of guys in the group. I'm kind of the low guy on the totem pole in our group, but I learned so much from some of these guys that are doing. Some of these guys are doing 100, 150 wholesales a year. Some of them own multiple apartment complexes and thousands of doors. So there's something to learn from everybody in there. So definitely, outkick your coverage when you're doing that, right? So. One more.
One last one from your Okay. This isn't really so much of a question as it is a statement, if you will. But in support of what Brad has said and shared with me in the last 2 weeks, and I'm an old fart, just to make sure you understand. I've been around a long time, doing a bunch of things, and I've sold a lot of businesses, etc. But what Brad really pointed out is that he hired me because he thought that maybe I had something to give him. And in reality, I hired him because he had something to give me. So the statement that I make to you in support of what everything he's just said is that if you guys could team up or find some peers amongst yourselves, you might be a lot more successful if you could decide that you have this strength and they have that strength. And the greatest compliment that I can give to this younger fox, okay, is that he's not greedy, okay? He has no desire to be greedy. We don't have to make and squeeze a deal for every penny. We have to make the deals work. We have to make them effective. We have to make a deal that will work for us and for the customer. The person that's selling should then be able to say, that was a great experience. And why I hired Brad is because I read his recommendations from his customers. And they think the most of him, and I do too.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Definitely do testimonials on your website. They will people watching. So I'm looking forward to hold more, to buy and hold more if I can, and then also being more conservative with my numbers and buying a house deeper at a deeper discount. You make your money when you buy, and you just have to think about what that worst case scenario is. Like, if shit hits the fan, like what can I sell this house for or whatever. Like, if you buy it with that in mind, you'll do fine every time. Like, if you think of that worst case scenario, you'll do fine. So, but long term, my strategy is to hold more because wholesaling's awesome. You make some good money, but it's a job. It's a hamster wheel, and you just have to keep doing it. But long term, buy and hold.